we're here, we also have to provide for physical needs. You know, the Apostle Paul was on this prison ship, and they got shipwrecked on an island. And before any kind of spiritual ministry got done on that island, you know what opened the door for spiritual ministry on that island? Can you remember?
They was building a fire.
It built a fire, and the apostle was carrying firewood for the fire. What was the purpose of the fire?
Stay warm. Survive.
The guys just swam ashore on a cold winter ocean, so they're freezing cold and wet. The fire was to dry them out and make them physically comfortable. And the apostle was busy carrying firewood. How much preaching was he doing while he was carrying that firewood? Not at all. Did he have any what was his thought in mind was here? I got to get this firewood to help dry these guys out, and himself as well. But the Lord used it to open up a door by having a snake grab onto him.
Yeah.
Now that seems strange. How could a snake bite introduce you into a spiritual ministry? Well, there is a big snake that's been biting everybody in the world, and including the Lord's people. And the apostle did not scream out for help, or he didn't, unusual way. He just shook it off in the fire. The fire that he was helping supply to warm up and dry off his fellow prisoners was also the death knell for the enemy. But when he shook that snake off in the fire, everybody else started watching, because what did they expect to see? Him to die. They thought he was going to drop dead, because that was a very poisonous viper of some kind. But when they saw nothing happen to him, then they decided he must be a god. Those are the locals. Yeah, the locals, and maybe the prisoners too, I don't know, but especially the natives that live there. So anyway, they start bowing down to him. They're going to worship him because they think he's a god. And of course, he immediately put a stop to that, and then began then to tell them about who the Lord is. Before long, I don't know if the whole community, but at least a bunch of them came to the Lord there. And that's pretty much his experience on that island, wasn't it? Nothing else said about it. And but what I'm thinking is, you got to help build a fire. Carry some firewood for somebody. And you may not think, well, what good is this doing? Here I am driving guys around, or I'm painting the building, or nailing some siding or something. What good is that doing anything? Well, what good does it do for him to help carry firewood to that fire? The people there had no idea that by him carrying that firewood and what happened of it, a lot of people came to everlasting salvation through that little operation. And all that was is just a key to open the door. That's all. But we don't know whatever became of all those guys that were standing around the fire. They don't hear anything more about it. Nothing said about the fire. Did he go back and carry more firewood, or was that the end of it, or what? We don't know anything about it. But we know that God uses things that may seem to be pretty minor issues to do great things with. So the moral of that story is God will use you in no matter what you do. But if you're focused on rescuing, why was he carrying firewood? That's the next issue. Why? Because it was needed for the immediate need of these guys who were freezing, wet, cold, coming in out of the sea. So he was taking care of their physical needs. That's why he was carrying firewood. But the Lord used that to jump into the lifelong thing, the everlasting side of life. And I'm just saying, I'm thinking of all this. We need to be packing firewood. We need to be doing something to meet the needs of ourselves and the folks around us. If nothing yet, dry you out from the cold water. Yeah. And then do you think the apostle prayed, now, Lord, I hope that you'll use this firewood in some way to illustrate your greatness? And I don't think he thought that way at all. One thought in mind, we need a fire. It needs to be a bigger fire than it is right now. And I don't think the apostle had any plan in mind except throw this wood on the fire. And he probably figured, well, as soon as we get done, we'll go back and get another armload and bring that too, you know. He didn't know where it would go, but it did great things. Can you imagine, he thinking 2,000 years from now, people will be talking about me packing firewood to this bonfire here? I mean, there's a lot of fires in the world. We don't read about them for thousands of years. But I guess, you know, here they were in a really very emergency situation. They needed that fire. And the apostle went right to work. He did not lay around and rest or celebrate he just came in out to see himself. He didn't sit down and have a little party afterward. He got right to work. And I'm just kind of thinking all this. We're only here for a short time. The world is freezing and cold and wet, and we got to get right to work. So I guess in all of it, I'm thinking we need to be doing something, and it may be nothing but packing firewood. Yeah. But we can't be laying around too much. And I see, you know, Mark and I were just talking about people on welfare, and there's a standard saying that whatever you subsidize, you get more of. The government subsidizes welfare, and they tax to death the productive citizens. So what do you tax? You pull that down. Whatever you subsidize, you jack that up. So they're building welfare and punishing the people that are producing. Yeah, and they're actually putting punishment on the people that are doing the producing, and that's got it all backwards. And so, if we're going to do things right, we don't subsidize the bums. We help out those who are working, and we join in the work effort. So, I don't know what that all got to anything you're saying, but it seems like you ought to be involved in something that's productive some way or another. Yeah. I don't know how to get it, but we were just talking just a bit before we called that Mark said he'd been on what do you call it? Not welfare, but compensation or something.
Unemployment. It's like 21.
Yeah, for just a short time, and I was too, about the same time for a short time. But otherwise, we've always just found something to do, some kind of work. You know?
I found a job before I could get unemployed.
Yeah.
I always had a job within a week or so.
Well, I came to Alaska years ago with one thing in mind. So I heard that you can work and make a lot of money up here. That's what I came here to do. And, of course, I hit the ground running when I got here. We got here late in the evening up in Fairbanks, about 6 o'clock in the evening, climbed out of the truck, and the contractor wanted us to start work right then. He wanted us to get out of the truck and pick up a tool and start working. But I said, well, how about if we come by tomorrow morning? We're pretty tired. We've been driving all day. Next morning, we were knocking a house together. The very next morning. And anyway, that was why I came. I did not expect to do any kind of particular ministry here. Wasn't doing much when I left home, except we did have a Bible study or two going down there. But I never even thought about that idea up here, and I didn't know anybody here at all. And but of course it's come now. So anyway, I guess my first thought is we're here. Pick up some firewood and start packing to wherever they need to have the fire going. Do something, you know. And one way, I remember one time when I went to Colorado, I was having a hard time finding work. I was going to Bible school there for a little while. But I went trying to get a job, and I'd done cabinet shop work. So I went to this cabinet shop, and they weren't hiring. They weren't interested in hiring. But I said, look, let me work for you for 1 week. You don't owe me anything. And if it doesn't pan out, just say so, and I'll be gone. You don't have to pay me nothing. If it does work out, then I'd like to work worked there 1 week, and the guy said, "We need you." Before long, he'd offered me a little pathetic amount of money, and he said, "No, we're not going to pay that. That's not enough." So he, without asking, he jacked the price up. But what I did, I wouldn't go home at night till I'd talked to a bunch of people. When I moved to Arizona the first time after I got out of high school, I only had a bicycle. I hadn't any vehicle or anything, but I'd ride that bike every day from early morning to late evening. I'd just go down the road. I'd stop at every single business along the way looking for work. And I'd spend the entire day talking to people. And I did that for 30 days before I finally got hired on. I got a couple of one-day jobs, but I finally got hired on to a full-time regular job. After 30 days of riding that bike every single day, all day long, and not just for an hour, but the whole day from morning till dark almost. And I don't know how many must have talked to 100 different businesses. But I was 18 years old. I said, I'm not quitting until I find something to do here. And I guess I don't know. I don't know who I'm even talking to here, but it seems like everybody ought to be doing something.
Well, the way that, I mean, y'all know I've been working. I've been doing something here and there. And you know, the way Alicia and I were thinking is, you know, if you're gonna work, and everybody's got to work, you know, when we were thinking, what are the ideals for us, or for me specifically, and it was that, you know, work with people that you love, work with people that the day's work is not just productive, but it's also other ways productive. And, you know, so we thought about you two. That's why we wanted to talk to both of you. You know, because we've done a lot of piddling work together. And you know, I mean, you know, I've still got many years of work, you know, ahead of me. And, you know, we were thinking if, you know, because we're like graduated stairs, you know. Jim, you've had the most experience, and then Mark, you're right behind him, and I'm right behind you. And, you know, I don't know what kind of thing that we could think about doing together, but, you know, the stuff that we've collectively already done. And, you know, the benefits, you know, for you guys is to have something that you could put your hands on. And, you know, I'd be the, you know, guy working most of the labor, just like we did when we were doing the decks and stuff. And you know, anyway, that's what we had in mind.
That's not a bad idea.
And another thing that we had in mind was, you know, well, you know, like one of the things that I've often put my hands to is crafty things. And, you know, Jim, me and you made a shelf, you know, just threw a shelf together. And, you know, people pay some crazy money for little tiny things like that. And you know, Jim, you've got a whole shop out there that can produce stuff, you know, that you got pretty much all the equipment that you could need to, you know, to do at least, you know, little things. And so, you know, there's an asset right there. And you know, Mark, when we were at the church building, you know, something that you always talked about was having some kind of little coffee house, or, you know, some kind of opportunity or something to have to where people came in and could have conversation. And, you know, the thing is that, you know, coffee in Alaska is an extremely competitive business. Kaladi Brothers already does that quite well. But, you know, we were thinking about a store or something, you know, kind of like Jim, if you remember Ben, what's his name? That dude that came to the Toastmasters some, did a real good job doing the sermons and stuff on the light of Israel. Anyway, his family runs that family flea market down there. And, you know, something like that, a storefront where people could come in and maybe even run a, what do you call it, consignment shop type thing. You know, where, yeah, like Alice could sell her paintings, or Mark, you could sell your paintings. And, you know, we'd have a steady place to make our wares and have a place to see how they will sell, and also give other people an opportunity. You know, if we had some spot of real estate that we could have the space to do something, you know, we could give other people a chance to, and take a small cut of that and pay for the lights to stay on or something like that. Anyway, so that's kind of some of our business ideas that can be easily squeezed into, spending time together, and when other people come in, not just be a business, but be a blessing for them, you know. But, you know, something that has been a challenge for me is how do you do ministry work and trade that for money? And I don't really think it's a extremely best way to do it, but, you know, nobody would mind, you know, paying me money, say, for one of these blank journals that I make or something else like that, you know, and people like buying stuff from people they really like, you know, and people that they know is going to do a good job and be straight up with them, and, you know, on top of that, just like them, you know. Anyway, if y'all want to think about that and put that in your little burner and let that cook for a while, pray about it, because
one thing I'm thinking is that one guy that was pretty successful in business said one way to make it, you find out something that someone really wants or needs, and find out a way to fill that need.
Yeah.
And you gotta do something that either is not being done, or at least not done for those individuals, and you got to be there available to do exactly that. And I'm back to that issue of the Apostle Paul on that island. The immediate need was firewood for that fire, and he immediately went to work to do that. And you're saying that you'd like to work with people of like mind. Well, he would build that fire for some other prisoners and for a guard who had just before threatened to kill all the prisoners to let him avoid getting to escape. And the apostle told him not to kill anybody, so they didn't. They were going to kill. They would have killed the prisoners. And then he was also perhaps helping the people on the island who were strangers. They didn't even know his language or anything. He knew nothing about them. They're just natives on this island. So whoever he was building that fire for, as far as his thought was, I'm not related to any of them at all. But the only thing he saw there, they had an immediate need, and he's willing to do something about that need. And he didn't expect to get anything for it other than maybe just a sugar and heat from the fire. And nobody was paying to do it. He was a prisoner himself. But somehow he just did that, and that got used.
Hey, Brett?
Yeah.
I was just thinking that there's going to be an immediate need down in Texas with all that flooding and whatnot. All those houses will have to be rehabbed and torn out and rebuilt and all that stuff. But you remember David Rose?
Yeah.
Yeah, so him and Jenny moved down to Utah, and he found a truck and he bought a trailer sort of matched, and it's a mobile contractor's trailer, like exercise and all his gear all hanging up so he can roll out to the job site, lower the door, and just go to work.
Yeah.
And, that I was just thinking you were talking about, well, Jim was talking about where the need is, and then working with like-minded people, you're going to be, if you were going to a stressful situation, what an opportunity to share God's word with those people that are hurting and needy and whatnot. It just seems like a really nice fit. Well, you did that. That's how you met your wife, right?
Yeah. That's what we were doing down after
That's
Katrina.
a great idea. You might consider making a connection with Dave Rose and see if you'd like to join him and go down there to Texas. Start putting that place back together for people.
Yeah.
Well, David Rose has sort of lymphoma, cancer. What is that?
Yeah.
I'm not sure
some kind of cancer, and so he's holding his own right now. But a friend of his had sort of a business going on, but instead of working for him, he decided to subcontract, on his own. So do it his own way, call his own, you know what I mean? Not working for somebody. So he'll probably hire a person or two, depending on how much work there is. But it sounded like he had jobs already lined up, and his friend does insurance things,
Uh-huh.
And he needed Dave to help him, but instead of Dave just working for him, he decided to start his own company. So he'll be subbing on his own, do his own jobs, and then he'll help when his buddy needs extra help. He'll fill that void also. Yeah, I don't know what, I know that a little bit of that family, that market family, whatever you called it. What was that called? The flea market?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Dreber.
I looked at a motorhome down there, and then I bought a couple pictures from them and talked to them a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
It was a family affair. They're out of Eagle River, and they didn't work on Sundays, and I think they're closed on Mondays, or maybe Sundays and Wednesdays. I can't remember, but anyway, things are, those shops. There was another Christian one out. Remember somebody in our church, Tommy or Ann or somebody was telling us about. There's a Christian sort of, what they did is they took stuff that people threw away and they refurbished it and resold it.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a part of a church, it was all, everybody there was Christians, and they gave some money back to, the needy, other Christians in need and whatnot. And that's a pretty good opportunity. But all that stuff, it's where your heart is. You got to put out the energy and, get that. So I don't know about Jim, but I'm getting near the end of my work season.
Yeah.
My body's, well, we were just talking about how I'm all achy and this and that. And, I worked pretty hard, almost 50 years now, so I'm not into, heavy-duty work anymore.
Yeah.
But I thought everything that you mentioned, I've had the same idea. That when I was younger, I wanted to be a part of a commune, but it's sort of like they did up in Delta. Everybody's family of like-minded people lived in a community and helped each other out. Co-op, if you needed someone to harvest their, grain or whatever, everybody would go over there and do that. Someone needed to build a barn, everybody would show up and build the barn. And I've always had, that was always been my, maybe it's a fantasy, but a utopia type system.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I thought about those flea markets. I love to recondition, and I can't throw something away. I always want to fix it. I don't know if I could make a living doing that, but I'm always fixing something.
But Israel get on a kibbutz. That's what they do. It's a community where they don't own that place they live in. It's owned. The community is owned by the group.
Oh, okay.
That's a kibbutz, and it's really kind of a socialist program. But that's the idea. It worked for Israel. It worked real well.
Yeah.
The young people go there and they get into one of those kibbutzes. It gives them a place to live, and they work there, and they have a farm often, or they might have an orchard, or they might have some manufacturing plant or packing plant or something that they do that supports the whole thing. They all work at it,
You know Roger Branson that comes to Bible study on Wednesdays?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he's a part of this community down in Nikiski, on the northern part of Kenai. And they have a bunch of land, and there's a bunch of church members that fellowship together. They built this. It was going to be a barn, and it ended up being a 3-story house-type worship center, offices, and all this. But they used hay bales and then plastered the inside and outside.
Oh, wow.
And the whole thing is made out of, wood too, but the walls are all 2 foot of hay, and I saw the last picture. They got the roof on and windows in and everything. So that's been a 2 or 3 year project for them.
What are they
but
called?
That's sort of a community type, sort of the same kind of thing that we've been talking about.
What are they called?
I'm not sure. I can't really tell you because Roger never got too specific.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought he said they were building little houses for people.
So so Roger's idea. He's used to sell. Well, he used to build stuff, and then he sold roofing products. Started his own company, and the company got stolen from him. So he's been, like living in a shack all winter. He borrowed my generator one whole winter just to stay warm, just to have heat. So he, lives with people, lives in a camper, lives in a shed. He goes down to this community and stays. But he gets these trailers donated to him, and he'll gut them out and then make if it's a 60-foot unit, he'll make 3 units out of it for the what would you call it? Mentally ill people.
Oh, really?
People getting out of prison or people that don't have much, and it's to teach them how to learn to get along with others in the community, and they have their own little house to live in, and then there's going to be a bigger structure where the kitchen is, and they all sort of come to the kitchen and eat, and then they can go back to their own little, 12 by 20 foot room or whatever. So he's already written grants, to get grant money, and it's trying to put it together. And I had a trailer for him, and that got buried, and then there's another trailer coming up that someone wants to get rid of. So I don't know. Right now he doesn't have the property to put it on, so he's trying to get it all together.
Is he any relation to Judy?
To who?
Did you say Bradford or Branson?
No, this is Roger Branson.
Okay, I thought you said Bradford.
No,
I
he's
think
a friend of Matthew. Worked for him when he had his company for a while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How's Matthew doing?
That's how I got introduced to him.
Oh.
But his heart is for. He was diagnosed with bipolar for years and years, and he'd have these episodes, and he finally got re-diagnosed as personality disorder or something. So he's just learning how to, when he feels angry or like put out or whatever, he's learning to deal with those feelings so he doesn't, try to take something to make him feel better.
Yeah.
And sort of dealing with life. And so he's around a lot of these people with similar issues, and so that he has a heart for that, trying to help them. And it's been like 5 or 6 years he's been talking about that, and he's finally starting to make these little units. So that's a heart for people, the rescue operation.
Yeah.
You ever talk to those folks out in New Mexico? I don't know.
Well, I hadn't ever talked to them. Thought we might roll out there, but never did.
Hey, did you ever follow that guy? I turned you on to that Viking preparedness guy, Pastor Joe Fox.
Yeah.
He lives in the Ozarks. He has people coming and visiting him and trying to find out about the whole thing. Sometimes he's been inundated with a lot of people. They're just kick the tires, or so he's got to the point where sometimes he feels like it's a waste of time. But he had a couple videos where these families picked up out of California, was tired of the big city and all the crime and this and that. They drove out there, and he got a job just doing whatever he had to do, and he came out to visit, and he was so all excited. He put some money down on a piece of land there. The Ozarks are supposed to be one of the most protected areas in the United States. If you follow the end times.
Yeah. I'm familiar.
Yeah. So anyway, you should check some of his videos out. There was a black family that was on there. They were so encouraged and excited, and they just went right to work. And they didn't really burden Pastor Joe and his family much, except for like a one-day visit. But they just got right to work, started working, buying property, and building their own thing.
Yeah, I was following him for a while. I just hadn't.
He talks about Yahweh all the time, and he uses the same Hebrew terminology, and he's always. I've been impressed with. I've listened to some of his sermons, and it's just like-minded people. When you said like-minded people, it made me think of him.
Yeah, I've actually written him letters before. I never heard back from him, but like you said.
You did write him a letter?
Yeah, I've written him before.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that guy.
Yeah, I was impressed. I mean, and he's getting up there. He's like in his 50s now, and he's slowing down. And
yeah, his wife got sick. That's the last I heard from him, really.
Yeah, she had a tumor, had brain surgery, and that he sort of put everything on hold for that. Now she's back up and hardly missed a beat.
Yeah,
That was almost like 8 months ago or something, 6 months ago.
Yeah, I hadn't really kept up with him for as long as that was. I mean, I kind of, and he also went to Patreon, and
he doesn't do his YouTube as much. He does maybe one a week, but he's on Patreon every day.
yeah. Do you get on Patreon to see him?
I've never been on there. Don't you have to pay?
Yeah, I think so. too.
Well, you got some good ideas there, Brad.
Well, you know, we just wanted to bounce those off of you guys because, you know, because we love you guys and we love the church up there and we liked living up there and you know we took the opportunity to come down here because we thought it was the right thing and you know we just kind of felt like we hadn't gotten to our feet since we've been down here and so anyway, you know we wouldn't want to be a burden or anything, you know and
The job you had down there, was that working for Google or Amazon?
it was Apple.
Oh, Apple, that's it.
And it technically wasn't Apple. It was Xerox.
IBM subbing out for Apple.
Yeah,
right?
subbing out for Apple. So,
But have you heard the story that is it not Apple or Amazon's hiring 10,000 people a week or something like that? Something crazy.
yeah,
That's what Nathan's saying, yeah.
Yeah, I heard that in the news too. That they're just hiring all kinds of people, and one of their headquarters is Kentucky.
yeah, right where Nathan is,
down
right?
in the area. So is it too hot for you guys down there?
It's hot, man. It's for sure hot.
Yeah, but it's not humid hot, right?
What in Savannah? Yeah, it's
No,
way
in
humid.
Kentucky.
No, Kentucky's good weather. Yeah. I was shocked at how good the weather was, you know, because I was thinking it's down south it'll be hot. It never was that hot. Not to me.
Yeah.
I mean, because I was
I'm
used
just
to.
wondering if it might not pay to take a ride for you down to Texas there and see what's going on because those whole places just been devastated by this hurricane. There's going to be a lot of guys working down there doing stuff. They might find something productive to do down there.
Yeah, you know that sounds like a good idea.
Well, you know, I saw this documentary or something on television that there's contractors that's all they do is they go from disaster to disaster to disaster to rehab, and there's always work, and they're helping people, and you know what I mean? I just think that when people are hurting like that, they need the word. They need the word more than anybody. And then if you can help rebuild their house, that's an added feature.
Yeah.
I just looked at the news a while ago at little town of Aransas, Texas, right? It's north of Corpus Christi ways. Was right in the eye of that hurricane. It showed one mobile home park just 100% devastated, just a big pile of trash. Which 2 days ago people lived there, and now it's just a massive. It looks like a city dump.
Wow.
Just trash everywhere. Places upside down, walls all blown to pieces, and imagine the people. Most of it, it's an amazing thing, a miracle almost. The sheriff of that town said, no fatalities and no injuries. Not even an injury.
Did they evacuate the town?
Well, mostly, yeah. It said about 95% of the people left. There's a few people that hung around, but no. They said so far, no fatalities and no injuries. And when you look at the devastation, you think, man, it would be hundreds of people killed, but it said so far none. So that's miraculous. But the structures are just blown to pieces. Stores with the roofs blown off, and vehicles upside down, sideways, and telephone pole laying down the road. They said they lost electric power for 300,000 people or something. Wow. It'd be weeks before you get the power back on. Some places, no water. I mean, it's just
that's serious for the kind of heat for the buildings.
Yeah. Some places there were fires going places, and there's no way to get to them. They're flooded. They can't get at them. They just let them burn down, you know. And
some of those mobile homes, if it's that bad, it's probably not even worth.
Well, they're just trash, but there surely will be a lot of places that are just damaged and need
Trump
fixing.
said he's going to pump in emergency funding down there.
But there'd be all kinds of other things. If nothing else, clear and trash away. Just loading dump trucks up with junk and stuff like that. I could think there'd be lots of different kinds of work to do. Communications.
Yeah.
If you're good on computers, I bet you there'd be a need for that. They said right now the cell phone service is dead, or it was this morning news, because all the cell phone things that operate are out, so there's not even any communication available, many of them, and they're probably using CB radios and the old ham radios, that kind of thing going to try to get communication. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was down there and had their eyes open. There'd be plenty of things to do.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
Nothing to run a push broom and clean the parking lot off or something, I mean, there's going to be all kinds of work to do because people are going to move back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll go back. Somebody's got to build the facilities to do it. I imagine the city dumps there are just filling with trash. I mean,
I'm such a junk collector myself. I always look at, when I see people throwing away all this stuff and hauling to the dump, I go, man, that, it's just like, some of it's probably trash, but I just see potential. I'm weird that way.
Yeah, I'm that way too much. I've been in the city down to see a bicycle later, and all it's wrong with is missing a pedal.
Yeah.
People throw it away. You can go down to the bike shop, buy one, put it on, be perfect. Some people just don't know how to fix anything.
A friend of mine went to the police auction every year when all his stolen bicycles get resold, and he was buying like 10 and 20 10-speeds and swapping parts around, and he had like 2 or 3 really nice bikes, $1,500 bikes, and he got like 20 of them for $200, and I don't know what he did with the rest of it. He gave them away or sold them or something. But I don't know. It's just.
I met an old man that I think lived in Mountain View several years ago. Who did that? He'd get these old beat up bikes and fix them all up and give them to the local kids around or sell them or something. But
oh, that's cool.
He took a lot of old throwaway bikes and he'd switch parts just like you're saying. And
there was a company downtown that had the old classical Schwinn's. He had fixed those up, and they started a rental company. The tourists come up and ride bikes around the town. He did that, all kinds. I mean, he was making. They couldn't even keep the bikes in stock. They're always gone.
How about that?
Yeah, there's, as long as people live, there's things have to get done. Somebody's got to do the work. And I talked to a lot of people that say, well, in this town, there's no jobs in this town. Well, the people living there, what do you think everybody's doing at 8 o'clock in the morning, all these cars going by? They're not just out joyriding, they're going to some job. Yeah, but I told one guy down in Alabama when I was built my daughter's house there many years ago, he asked if there's jobs in Alaska. So I said to him, well, what are you doing right now? He's a roofer. How many days a week do you work? 6 days a week. Said, yeah, there's jobs in Alaska. For working people, there are always jobs. For non-working people, they can never find a job. Yeah. It doesn't matter what's going. If they're not working, they don't work. Working people work. Because as long as people are alive, something needs to be done.
Yeah.
And you can't do everything. You can't create your own gasoline, so you go to a place that makes gas.
Right.
You can't make your own light bulbs, so you go to a place that makes light bulbs. You don't have a farm, so you go to where they grow crops. Somebody does the work. And then you got to do some kind of work that other people need in order to pay for those things.
Yeah.
So if you're a working guy, you're working, and you buy from other people who are working. And the non-working people, they just suck the blood out of the others that are working. And the government is the mediator that hands them all stuff, But, so, I remember one guy told me years ago, he said, nobody provides jobs. You have to create your own job, and you do that by doing something that somebody else needs done. And if you do something that somebody else needs done and do it right, they will pay you to do it.
Yeah.
So,
you almost have to sell yourself.
Yeah.
Go in and say, well, just like you, I'll work for a week for free.
Yeah.
you make that job.
Watch me work, and if you like what I do, then put me on. If you don't, thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.
And how could they lose by that?
Yeah.
Walk up to somebody's work and say, hey, let me work with you. And you don't owe me a thing until you decide that I've got what you need. If you do, then hire me. I'll do a demo for you. Let me work you for 1 week for free. No charge.
Yeah.
There's not very many guys will do that. But if you do, if you do the job, it's almost for sure they'll put you on. If they got anything to do.
After I stopped building houses for myself, I couldn't find, in '84 when the market crashed, banks were going out of business. There was a big condo place on Old Seward down by the Diamond Center there.
Yeah.
And I went in there and I said, hey, I got my own equipment and I can finish this house. Okay, jump on there. So I took out my compressor, my nailer, my stapler, and I started working that whole building. And they go, wow, you're doing pretty good. I said, yeah, if you want to start a new building, I can lay that out and whatnot. Pretty soon I had 2 crews going. I did all the layouts for all the buildings, and they were supposed to pour concrete on the floors, so they should have had a double stud. They were going in and putting blocks in there, so the floors were too short.
Yeah.
So from then on, I was doing double stud on a double plates on the bottom to make up the difference.
Sure.
And snapping all the lines and running around. People were missing studs. I had them come back and staple it again. And and these are just do it. I don't know.
I remember years ago when soon after it came here, I was down. They were just opening up Ocean View, and I went in there, and there was a foundation. Some guys were doing something, and I said, "Do you have any framers here?" And he said, "Oh, we do our own frames." "Oh, you do? Okay." And I kind of looked at it and said, have you figured out what it costs you? "Oh, yeah, we know exactly what it costs." I said, "Let me figure one of your plans for you, just for fun." So he got one. He said, "Okay." So I figured out, he looked at it. He went back and he brought another thing. He said, "Do this one." So I looked at that one. He looked and he said, "We may be doing the wrong thing." He said, "I'll tell you what." He said, "I'll give you one house. Do that one, and we'll decide." Well, we ended up building 15 houses for that guy, and he started recommending us to other people. He used to own Builders Millwork, which window and door supplier and stuff. And people would be phoning, "Hey, we heard that you can do good framing." And I got to where I never asked for work for 15 years after that. People would just phone and say, "Please come and frame our house for us,"
That's awesome.
But what I did, I walked up to the guy and said, "Let me show you what I can do." And it won't cost you. We laid his plan out on the hood of the truck where he could lay it flat and got out a pencil, started doing a little writing and measuring, and next thing you know, we were busy. But you have to just go talk to people and say, "I can do what you need doing, and I'm here to do it to your best advantage." One guy said the oldest profession in the world, people come and think it's prostitution. That's not the oldest one. Is being a salesman. The first salesman that ever approached the world was the enemy, Satan himself. He sold the people, they bought the product. But nothing moves until somebody sells something. That's the statement of business. Nothing happens until someone sells something. Because you can be the best artist in the world, but if nobody's selling your pictures, how much money do you make? Or you can be the best carpenter going. But if they don't know about it, you have to sell it to them. So that's the first thing you got to do. You got to be a salesman. And all a sales guy does, he says, "I know how to find a product that will meet your need. I can connect you to that." That's what a salesman does.
So the business model that I keep seeing over and over and over is like Jim says, you find something that somebody needs. The 2 things you do is you do something more than their expectations, like better, and then a little bit cheaper, and you'll have all the business you can ever want.
Yeah.
Because if you impress somebody and you just can't, imagine that the quality and the workmanship and the timeliness of it, and it's a reasonable price, people are going to run for that.
Yeah. I know a guy, I haven't seen him for years, but I know a guy that lives near Seward. He's a builder, and he's from Sweden, Swedish guy. Can't even think of his name now.
Svensson.
Well, you're close. Roger Svensson. That's his name. Roger Svensson.
That's the sweetest name I heard once.
But he has a kind of a strong Swedish accent.
Yeah.
And he's such a nice guy, just a delightful guy to work with. But he has a business card, right at the bottom line of the business card is, yeah, we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. And I was mentioning that to somebody, said, you go into a store and you ask them about a certain product, sorry, we don't have that. Yeah. Or we can't do that for you. Well, then you just want to turn around and walk away. So his business card is, yeah, we can do that. So whatever you say, what is it you want done, we can do that. And when people say that to you, you're asking them something, yeah, we can do that. We got what you're looking for. Well, then you're ready to do business. Mm-hmm. But the minute they say, sorry, can't do it, well, that's the end of it right there.
So I was in Lowe's, the other day, and I'm looking for a stain with a finish in it.
Yeah.
Oh, we don't have that color. I said, you just can't add some white to this clear. Oh, it won't mix right. There's all these things.
Always tell you what they can't do. Huh?
So I bought a little can of stain and a little can of sealer,
Yeah.
And I ran them out, and I had to buy some more. And I go around to the next aisle, and here's a different brand.
Buckets of
Stain and sealer combined. And they didn't even take me. They didn't say, oh, yeah, how about this? And I just thought to myself, they're just working for a company.
That's
they're
right.
Really,
but a good worker won't let you walk away like that. He'll say, let me help you.